Hello YouTubers, welcome back. Mike B here, got another video. I know, this is like 4 in a row. It hasn't been like this for a while. Anyways, today I'm going to go over a video that I was kind of planning on doing in the first place, and then somebody, a viewer on my Facebook page, recommended something like this, so it was like, okay, well, it's time. We're going to go through like the evolution of United States military helmets from 1917 to 2017, so it's 100 years in the evolution. So we're going to start out with, obviously, the British-inspired and kind of American-made M1917 Brodie helmet. So this is the one, I do have a video on this that I made, in the specific one. This is my original example that's actually in probably the best shape that I've ever seen, right? So you had this like pie plate looking design, right? And then you had this liner system, which was a total adaptation of, or a total like replica of the British liner. So you got like this kind of tar-covered oilcloth stuff. You got the net for adjusting it, the wool dome thing. The thing that was different is like the little rubber donuts or whatever for padding were actually in the outside of the liner versus like on top. And then if you can see that, it's got a rivet there. The British ones had the split pins, but that's how you can tell this is definitely an American helmet. And yeah, these were used. The actual shell itself was used until about 1942, but there's one helmet that I don't have, that I realized, but I still end up making the video, is the Kelly transitional helmet, which came out in either the late 20s or the mid 30s, where it's the same shell and everything, but it's just got like a 4-tongue leather liner instead. So that'll actually be our next helmet, but for all purposes of this video, promise you it's the only era that I'm going to have to skip, is going to be the 1917 helmet. The shell is the same. So this carries us up through about 1941 and 42, where we get the next one on our list. So as most of you know, this design is the M1. It started being issued in like late 1941 or in early 1942, when the Kelly transitional helmet was still being issued, which had the same kind of chin strap as this M1 right there, the khaki one with the little fastener. But the shell was still the 1917, so again, sorry I don't have one of those, but can't win them all. I really want one that they're super expensive to get in good condition. So this is an actual World War II era front seam shell, right there, if you can see that. And then it's got the original paint job on it, which is actually pretty sweet, because it's kind of hard to find them. A lot of them got repainted, because they were used a lot, as we'll kind of get to. But the earlier M1s had the welded fixed bail on there. This is kind of a mid to late war swivel bail that kind of moves for the chin strap, and then after World War II and stuff, they had a buckle on here. I'll show you on the later helmet, and this is pretty much like the first design of it. We'll get to the liner too, which has got this leather chin strap that kind of goes around the front to serve as the chin strap for the actual liner when you're doing like parades and stuff and not wearing the shell. So yeah, it's a two-piece design. If you don't know about the M1, watch my other videos on it. It's pretty cool. It comes apart. You can utilize it for a lot of stuff. And then this is one variant of the liners. There was so many variants of the liners. It's like a high pressure, I think. It's really thin, strong fiberglass. I like the Holiday liner with the cardboard that fell apart, but pretty good in practice, or in theory, but not good in practice. So, and then this is how you can tell it's a World War II helmet, is in the liner, because the webbing is the HBT material and it's khaki. Later on, I think towards the end of World War II, mid to late World War II and into Korea, this would be like an olive drab color. You got the nape strap right there, that's the same thing, it's a khaki color. And then it's got this little like 3 loop with the straight drawstring on the top to adjust the height and everything. And that's a pretty decent, just average example of a World War II liner. So here's the M1, and now we'll move on to like a later variant, because this style here was used all the way up through the Vietnam conflict. So now that's what we're going to get to. So here we go. So this is the kind of M1 you were going to see during the Vietnam conflict. Towards the end of the Korean War, and I think after World War II, somewhere in there, the actual shell size of the M1 got smaller. And I don't know exactly the reasoning for that, but I think it was to save on material and stuff. They realized that you didn't need as big of a helmet, so a couple of changes were made between the World War II and like the Korean and Vietnam ones. So obviously in Vietnam, they started issuing everybody a cover, the camouflage cover, whether they got the World War II leftover ones and Korea leftover ones, or the new Mitchell pattern like this. And this is one out of my collection. So you've got this, you got the addition of the elastic band. The Marines use like inner tube bands or something. But you had that, you know, attached foliage and stuff too. There's like buttonholes in here to attach foliage, and then, you know, obviously they put stuff in here. I have mine as an example, just like bug juice. And not really much change in the overall shape of the M1, but there's a couple changes in like the liner and the chin strap for one. I'll try to, oh, this is the airborne one, that's right. So the chin strap, instead of being just sewn on, had like this buckle thing, right? And this is an airborne liner, so it's got a snap right there. But and this green stuff, this green kind of liner didn't come out until the early 70s, but it's still Vietnam era, which is kind of why I have it. The other kind of liner they had was made out of the same kind of material and the same thickness and stuff, a little bit thicker than the World War II ones. And then it was just more of a brownish, almost orangish color. But again, same design, same everything. Another thing is the webbing's OD, and you can tell that it's a different webbing style. Like instead of the 3 loops and then the drawstring, you now have, oh, I'm sorry about the shadow. You now have like just these 3 straps, and the one in the middle's got stuff sewn onto it, so the other 2 just kind of go through it. You adjust it, you know, back here and here. You can adjust all 3 of them for the height, but it's a different style. And then, I mean, this is an airborne one, like I said, so it's got the A yokes, which really are pretty much the same as the World War II ones. The chin strap was different. Instead of being a leather cup, it's just a little canvas strap like that now. So that's the major differences between the World War II liner, or helmet, and the Vietnam era one, all the way up until like the 1980s. They'd use like a woodland cover, like it was called an ERDL cover, like the early woodland stuff, the smaller stuff. They used that, and then the next helmet replaced it in the mid-1980s. In about 1984, they started issuing out what was going to become the M88 by collectors, the PASGT, or Personal Armored System Ground Troops helmet. So this is made out of a Kevlar material, which is like a really strong polymer that's layered, and et cetera, et cetera. If you want to know about Kevlar, go to the Wikipedia article, it's all there. But anyways, so this one has got a different shape, as you can see. We've got like the World War II German-esque flare that's going down here. You got like a different colored paint, kind of a lighter colored paint. And then it comes up in the back, which is interesting because they figured out that, you know, guys are going to need to prone at some point, and it's really hard to go prone and lift your head up to look it through your weapon sights when you've got the flare all the way around, like on the World War II German helmets. So they learned that, and then, yeah, this thing kind of juts out, so you've got room to put a phone in. A lot of engineering went into this like basic design, and from about the mid-1980s until about 2004 and 5, this was the primary helmet of the United States Armed Forces. Like, we're talking every branch, I mean, the conventional troops, the SF, and whenever they had some other cool gizmos going on, like the skateboard helmet and stuff. But this was like one of the most revolutionary things for the U.S. soldier since, you know, the helmet was introduced in 17. So we're getting up there, and it's a lot thicker than steel, but it's also about the same weight, maybe just a little bit heavier. But it actually provides ballistic protection, as I've proven in the ballistic test videos. If you haven't seen those, go check those out on my channel. These were very impressive. The PASGT we tested was very impressive. So this brings us into more looking futuristic and stuff towards the 21st century, even though we're still in the 20th century. So mid-1980s till about 2004, where you've got the next helmet. Whoops, forgot to mention one little thing. The liner system. So you've still got this kind of World War II style liner. It's like an amalgamation where you've got a sweatband, but it's all made out of nylon. It's not canvas anymore. It's not, you know, cotton. It's just this really kind of rigid, like rough nylon. And then you got the size in there and everything, and it's all one piece. It's not a two-piece system anymore. So now you've got a little bit less versatility with it, but it actually protects you and serves a purpose. And you got this like uncomfortable drawstring right there, which a lot of guys have put a foam pad in there, and it's the reason why the next helmet had a different design for the liner. So now we'll get to the next helmet. So starting in about 2004, the United States Army, in specific, started issuing its troops the MITCH, or ACH helmet, Modular Integrated Communications Helmet, and then it kind of advanced, into the Advanced Combat Helmet, or ACH. So this was kind of like the PASGT, except it was made to be able to mount night vision stuff on a lot easier, and accessories a lot easier. And it had a 4-point chin strap system, which we'll get to in a second. But it doesn't have a visor on the front, so it's just kind of like, you know, I got the shape and everything, but the visor on the front that sticks out was not present. So it's a little bit lower profile. The shape is relatively the same, and yeah, you've got still it goes up in the back and whatever, so it's not entirely different. What was really different about the ACH or Mitch or whatever was the actual liner system. Now, this is what the SF and other non-conventional forces had been using for a few years, and it's just a system of pads. Like the inside of the shell has got little discs that have the hard side of Velcro, the hook side of Velcro, and then these can be placed wherever you want. And that made it super comfortable. It actually reduced the amount of shock that your head picks, or not picks, kind of takes when you, say, hit an IED or something, or an explosion goes off near you. It actually reduces the amount of shock. So that was interesting. And then I don't know when they started introducing these, but I got this when I deployed in 09. The addition of like this little Kevlar pad on the neck. So you kind of take that design that goes up in the back so you can shoot while prone, and then you add this there, and it makes it really difficult to shoot while prone, but I suppose it protects you if you're just sitting and not having to go prone. So that's the ACH. Now this apparently, I think I said in the video where I did a video on this, that I had a friend who was in Afghanistan, and he was wearing one of these, and he ended up taking a round, an AK round, kind of at this angle on the side, and it blew through and then followed the layers around and blew out the other side. He was knocked out cold, but he's still alive because of it. So obviously these have these were a big improvement over the M1 and especially the 1917. About the same ballistically as a PASGT, I would assume, but just the design was a little bit more streamlined. So now, I'm sure the moment you've all been waiting for, what is the most modern helmet that we have? Because this is no longer it. So we'll get to that right now. So you see this little helmet and you think, oh, it looks pretty much like the last one except without a cover. Well, I didn't put a cover on here. Usually they'd have like a multicam, or I'm sorry, Scorpion cover on them. But yeah, what we've got here is the ECH, the Extended Combat Helmet. So these started becoming like a thing in like 2008 or 9. And I'll show you in a bit how I know that. I've ascertained that they're that old. But they only started issuing these in about 2016, around there. To conventional forces, and from what I understand, it's all forces. It's not just one branch, because I forgot to mention the Army was mainly having the ACH, and the Marines had the lightweight helmet, which is like a PASGT shell with the visor on it, but like with a ACH liner. So this one I think is for all branches, and the reason they designed this is because obviously the ACH worked, but it didn't work enough, and I think there was a few head fatalities, and they were like, well, how can we prevent this? So the materials that this thing is made out of are like really freaking strong. Apparently, during testing, these could take AK rounds at like very close distances. Now that's pretty impressive. I'd have to watch some more videos on it, but I mean, obviously that's pretty good, because if you look at this, the liner looks the same and everything. You know, it's a pretty cool system. You got the pads and everything. This is a size small, so it looks a little bit smaller than mine. But it's a little bit thicker. It looks like it's a little bit thicker than an ACH. It's it's a tiny bit heavier, but I mean, that's not a bad thing necessarily. But this material doesn't exactly look like the straight up Kevlar that the ACH and the PASGT was made out of. It kind of looks like something, an extra chromosome. I don't know exactly what it's made out of, but a little bit more material. So this is what troops are currently wearing. They're going to look the same as an ACH, obviously, with a cover on them, which is why I removed the cover, because they don't have the visor on them. You got the nods mount right there. And the chin strap's a little bit different. It's a little bit easier to, put on, take off, a little more comfortable. Obviously, there's a few variations. This is an early one, and I'll show you the year on here. The contract number is 2009. So this one's also made for testing. I should have told you this wasn't made for being used in the field. There's like a sensor, a trauma sensor up there. So this is one of the trial helmets that never got shot up. So yeah, this is the ECH, and this is what we are wearing today. So there's 100 years of evolution of the American helmet since helmets started becoming a thing, part of the soldier's kit again, after not being part of the kit for however many hundreds of years, because, oh, we have firearms now, helmets are pointless. Well, not really. So, yeah, there's 100 years of U.S. helmets. Hopefully they can do this with other countries, guys, but, I mean, it obviously costs a lot of money to get something from 100 years ago and then get every variant in between, and I didn't totally do it with this one, but it is what it is. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you haven't already, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. If you already subscribed, thanks guys for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'm trying to put out a little bit of content. Been pretty busy the whole summer, but nevertheless, still got some cool stuff to share with you. I will be making a video just on the ECH alone if you want more detailed information, and maybe at a later date I'll post the link to that up in the description of this video. But as of right now, I don't have another video on this. This is the first time I've kind of been showing you that I have one of these. So, alright, thanks for watching, everybody, and hopefully you learned something. We'll see you next time.